Follow car number 09 in the right column. Floor it. Green, green, green.
Hi guys! The Quest 3 is Meta's new kid on the block. It touts a much improved video pass-through, higher pixel per degree density and pancake displays. It comes in fairly affordable too. So is this the new best budget VR headset for sim racing, or is there more to it? Let's have a look for ourselves, shall we? Now, I'm not really going to cover too much about mixed reality here, but content such as Immersed, which is a VR virtual desktop, allows you to cut out areas of your virtual environment to show the real content behind. This would be great if we could do it for our real button boxes so we can actually see what we're pressing in VR, because that's one of the biggest bugbears of using a VR system in sim racing, at least for me. Still, it's not an option for us yet, so let's not get too excited. On the pass-through camera side of things, you can flip between pass-through and VR at the double tap of the side of the headset. This is fantastic for sorting out some last-minute adjustments, and I can see it being awesome for content creators too. However, the visuals aren't good enough to read text off your monitor, or for that matter, your phone. It gave me a bit of a headache going in and out of pass-through during lengthy sessions, so be warned when using the feature. Something regularly mentioned in the VR space lately are pancake displays. They give you better clarity across most of the face of the lens without lighting artifacts, and this was noticeable when looking around the cockpit in the car. It's great to naturally glance around rather than having to move your whole head as part of that process, which I've kind of learned to do with the Reverb G2. These lenses come with a 30% pixel uplift from the Quest 2 and are pretty much on par, at least in theory, with the Reverb G2, which even after all these years is a great looking headset for the price. The lens arrangement reduces the God rays and other lighting artifacts you've come used to with some headsets like the Index. I have to say, this really helps in general with clarity. My one gripe with the Q3 lenses though, LCD panels really, black levels aren't great and it seems like an odd choice given the technology, probably their way of trying to cut costs. Some of the older generation headsets have square screens for each eye, the same pixel count horizontally and vertically. The Quest 3 shuns this with more horizontal fidelity, and honestly, that makes a lot of sense to me. 12 was the domain of the Fresnel lenses brigade, so it is nice to see that the Quest 3 measures a very healthy 110 degrees, which is very decent, actually better than my G2 is currently. Hopefully that additional field of view will help us to avoid any T1 messes. I have to go back and forth between the Quest 3 and my current VR headset, the Reverb G2, just to compare the visuals and see what I liked and what I didn't like about the Quest 2. Let's start with the good stuff, shall we? The cockpit area and the UI are a step up visually when using the Quest 2. It is clear and easy to see without learning the skill of turning your head instead of your eyes, which I had to do with the G2 and the Index. The pass-through mode is easy to reach with a double tap on the side of the headset. This was great for fumbling around the rig without having to take the headset off. In fact, I was able to put on my gloves and other things, which I found quite difficult when using the G2. I found the headset tracking superb without even the remotest little bit of stutter when racing. And the same goes for the controllers actually. It's going to be bad around the sides and at the back, but it's not a problem when you're sim racing. A sim rig is not the best place to try these things out with all the clutter, but they track very well. The additional frame rate options allow for a bit more flexibility without noticing frame drop. And on the software side of things, I found the OpenXR implementation for Oculus very good. This sounds great, doesn't it? Well, it isn't all rosy. Looking in the middle of the screen is fine whilst cars are close to you, but start to look into the middle distance and clarity is very poor. A huge step down then from the Reverb G2, which is now a 3-year-old device. The pass-through feature I love, I also found to be grainy and lag behind reality, even at 120 Hz. That gave me a pretty stonking headache after a few hours of tinkering, which renders it a bit useless for any long-term use. I noticed quite a lot of light bleed from the headset around the nose area, and I've not had that problem before with other headsets. Another thing I noticed was just how uncomfortable the straps are on this thing. It doesn't even have to be in use for a long time, and it starts hurting your ears and your forehead. I would definitely be swapping that out first off. So we had muddy, grainy visuals that weren't great. Well, we were also running a USB 2 cable there, but beware any cable that's a USB-C cable that is a high-power charging cable, but if you read the fine print it says it's USB 2, because you're going to get very bad visuals on the Quest 3. Let's go swap out that USB 2 cable and head on into the Oculus Debug Tool. We go into the Debug Support tool. Don't worry if you weren't able to follow the path I'm using here. I'll drop it in the description for the video. We set link sharpening to quality and up our maximum encode bitrate to 700 megabits per second. This isn't officially supported, but we can get around that by entering text into Notepad and copying it into the tool. Incidentally, 500 Mbps is the official maximum for this device, and by default the bitrate is around 130. So you can see why our visuals weren't great. Going back into the Oculus app, let's boost up the visual settings to as high as we can, and let's be a bit brave here and see what happens. With our settings changes, the cards look much better. We still aren't quite as sharp as the Reverb G2 in places, but it is a much closer battle. And let's not forget, we're talking about a standalone device here that has many other good qualities too. If you're stuck on a USB 2 cable, you can still improve things a little bit, but you're going to be limited by the speed of that cable. Should be able to get the encode bitrate up to 300 Mbps. Anything higher than that and you'll be a stuttering mess. This bitrate works for both the link and the air link, so you can improve the visuals here too, albeit being a tad more careful when we're doing things wirelessly. We'd have to do a bit of trial and error. As I said before, I'm currently on a Wi-Fi 5 router. Not great, so I won't be testing that out until I get a router replacement. One great thing about the Quest 3 is that, like its predecessors, you can use it standalone. This means that it isn't tied to your sim rig. Use it on your PC and enjoy other glorious experiences without just being sitting in your rig. You can explore the world of mixed reality gaming. There's not much out there right now. Bash some beats in Beat Saber or get lost in Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx is not a standalone experience. You do have to play that through AirPlay or through the Quest link. I expected the sound quality for this headset to be a tad bad, but actually pretty decent. Not quite as bassy as the Index or G2, but decent enough, and with almost deafening volume levels. The same can't be said about the microphone, which is quite poor unfortunately. Probably one of the worst features of the headset. I didn't mention this when driving around, but one big limitation of the Quest 3 right now is its battery life. 2 hours seems fair, but that's a rule out endurance racing and put you right at the limit with any mid-distance races. Plugged in, the battery is a little better, but it still drains, and at the time of recording there aren't any reliable solutions around this. Maybe there will be a firmware update, or maybe a cable to deal with that. AirPlay is a game-changing feature, and it's understandable that you'll need the latest in Wi-Fi technology to get its best. However, if you grab yourself a new Wi-Fi 6E router to benefit from this, then the headset looks like even less of a bargain. The stock headband is shockingly uncomfortable. It presses into my forehead and crushes my ears all at the same time. Forget the battery life problem, you'd not want to wear this for 2 hours anyway. When plugged into a PC, the USB cable comes out at a funny angle. I can get an adapter. It's not great when it's at that angle, and it's a problem, but a bit of cleanup with some cable ties and you'll be fine. But it's still more additional purchases. These two issues are remedied by the Bobo VR or Elite straps. But we're already paying $500 for this thing. How much more money do we want to throw at the problem? The Quest 3 is a great standalone VR device, and with Wi-Fi 6 and an upgraded head strap, it'll serve you well in most scenarios. Sim racing though? Out of the box experience wasn't great. I'll be honest, when I first completed this review, I definitely wasn't keeping the headset, but after some tinkering, it's a much harder decision. It's not as affordable as its predecessors, but still a lower end of the VR spectrum. Calling a £500 device budget feels wrong, but that's where we are in the VR space right now. I noticed some stuttering, which appears to be caused by bandwidth limitations on my very heavily utilized USB bus, but overall the experience was good. Pancake Lenses, pass-through and superior tracking probably means I'll be swapping out the Reverb G2. My old workhorse is still great, has the edge visually, but comes up a bit short as an overall package. Now I hope you've enjoyed this review of the Quest 3. It is actually a very good device, and it has some limitations, but honestly, at this price point, with these features, I think it's definitely worth a dabble, especially if you're already using, say, the Quest 2. If you've liked this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up so other people can find this video. And it's been great having you with me. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Bye bye for now.
We just had a warning for cutting the track.